Breaking Up with Addiction is proudly supported by experts you can trust. Kind Bridge Behavioral Health. Safe, non-judgmental counseling just a tap away. I'm Corinne Wright, certified recovery and executive coach. Our co-host Gwen will be joining us a little bit later. Welcome to Breaking Up with Addiction. Today we're talking about something that can make the difference in your recovery journey. Accountability. Not the punishing, pointing the finger kind. We're talking about the empowering kind that helps you stay grounded, focused, and supported. We'll explore what real accountability looks like and how to build a strong support system around you, and why going at it alone isn't a badge of honor. It's a barrier to progress. But first, let's do a homework recap. Last week's homework assignment was to find one person you'd like to build a connection with and take one action step towards building it. I hope that you were able to complete that assignment. Now, let's start by defining accountability. Accountability isn't just reporting your behavior. It's inviting support, truth-telling, and taking ownership. Accountability isn't about control. It's about connection. It links where you are to where you want to be. Instead of weighing you down with guilt or pressure, healthy accountability offers support, perspective, and is a reminder that you don't have to do this alone. It becomes the structure that helps you to cross over from struggling in silence to healing with support. There is a difference between shame-based controls and supportive check-ins. Shame-based control focuses on blame, fear, and punishment. It makes you feel like you're always one mistake away from failure. And this is something that is a big reason why a lot of recovering gamblers do not seek support, because they believe that this is what will meet them on the other side, which is absolutely not true, especially if you're seeking professional support. An example of shame-based control would be, you skipped another meeting. Seriously? Do you even want to get better? You're just wasting everyone's time. This response triggers guilt and fear. It assumes failure and places blame, which can lead to secrecy, withdrawal, or giving up entirely. Supportive check-ins, on the other hand, come from a place of care and collaboration. They're about encouragement, not interrogation. Instead of making you feel smaller, they remind you that growth is still possible and that someone is in your corner while you do the work. An example of a supportive check-in would be, I noticed you didn't make it to a meeting today. Is everything okay? Want to talk about what's going on? How can I support you this week? This approach communicates concern, not condemnation. It opens the door for honest reflection and encourages re-engagement without shame. Here's a checklist of what healthy accountability partners do and don't do. What healthy accountability partners do, they listen without judgment, creating a safe space for honesty and vulnerability. They ask reflective questions, not accusatory questions. Instead of, why'd you mess up? They ask, what led to that choice? They celebrate progress, not perfection, acknowledging the effort, the milestones, and the resilience. They hold clear and compassionate boundaries. They remind you of your goals without controlling your process. They follow up consistently, showing up regularly and reliably, not just when things go wrong. They model accountability themselves. They share their own growth journey and show it's okay to struggle and keep going. The don'ts of an accountability partner, we're going to start right off the top with the shame or guilt tripping you. They don't use your struggles as a weapon or make you feel less than. They don't micromanage your recovery. They don't control your decisions. They don't act as if they're the expert over your life. They don't disappear when things get uncomfortable. They don't ghost your check-ins. They don't keep score or throw past mistakes in your face. They don't use history to prove you can't grow. They don't make your recovery about them. They don't take your choices personally or make you responsible for their emotions. Healthy accountability partners walk with you, not ahead of you, not dragging you, and not behind you. They support your growth without taking your power. Having the wrong type of accountability partner can be a setback, because if you are avoiding having accountability in your life because of the accountability partner you have, that's a door preventing you from getting to your recovery. So one thing about this episode is that we want all people who support gamblers to hear it so that you can understand the type of support they really do need from you. And let's talk a little bit about the cost of isolation, which is something that can happen as a result of having the wrong type of accountability partner in their life. Too often we think asking for help is a weakness, but in recovery, isolation can be detrimental. One of the things that you have to look up for is the I got this mentality when it comes to a gambler. Why is the I got this mentality risky? According to a 2023 article from the National Library of Medicine and a 2022 publication by Canyon Vista Recovery Center, isolation in addiction recovery significantly increases the risk of relapse and emotional distress. So although you may think that tough love version of accountability is supportive, it is actually the opposite. There is a version of tough love accountability that can be supportive, and it's the one where you hold boundaries that you both have agreed to from the onset. Now, why is isolation risky? Increased risk of relapse due to isolation. That's one thing that I want you to remember. Increased risk of relapse due to isolation. If I'm alone all the time, what am I thinking about if I have an addiction? Individuals who attempt recovery without a support system are more susceptible to relapse. Social support has been shown to reduce stress and improve treatment retention, both critical for sustained recovery. A lack of accountability is something that isn't a definite for people who are recovering. When you think about accountability, we want you to think in terms of options, not in terms of who's the closest to me, who's known me the longest, but what are my options? Without external accountability, it's easier to rationalize risky behaviors or downplay warning signs of relapse. Supportive check-ins provide necessary perspective and encouragement. Emotional toll is something that a lot of people in recovery are dealing with day to day. Managing recovery alone can lead to feeling even more lonely, even more overwhelmed. And those are detrimental to your mental health and can contribute again to triggering a relapse. This is why it's important for the whole, when we say things like seeking a support circle, to seek support. We want you to seek support because that community of people gives you something to take your mind off the addiction. It reminds you of what life is aside from the addiction. Building your accountability circle can be something that strengthens your ability to fight a relapse. Being in isolation can lead to secrecy. Gambling addiction thrives in secrecy because it allows the behavior to continue to go unchecked, feeding denial and making it easier to avoid consequences, accountability, and help. The hidden nature of gambling often delays intervention and deepens the emotional and financial impact. Then there's the emotional toll of trying to recover without a safety net. This often leads to increased feelings of isolation, shame, and overwhelm. Without supportive connections, individuals are more likely to struggle in silence, relapse under pressure, and lose motivation when faced with setbacks, making long-term recovery much harder to sustain. The link between isolation and mental health and gambling addiction recovery is significant. Isolation can intensify symptoms of anxiety, depression, and hopelessness, common co-occurring conditions in individuals with gambling problems. When someone disconnects from others, they lose access to emotional regulation tools like support, encouragement, and perspective. This makes it harder to manage cravings, process guilt, or make healthy decisions, all of which are critical for recovery. Over time, isolation becomes both a symptom and a trigger. deepening the addiction cycle. So in short, isolation not only undermines mental health, but it actively endangers your recovery. Research indicates that isolation exacerbates mental health challenges in individuals recovering from gambling addiction. A study published in the Journal of Gambling Studies in 2022 found that loneliness and lack of social support are associated with increased severity of gambling problems and poorer treatment outcomes. Similarly, a 2022 article by 1-800-GAMBLER highlights that problem gambling often leads to severe isolation and a sense of loneliness, which can deepen the addiction cycle. These findings underscore the importance of social connections and support systems in the recovery process. And just to be clear, that article is by 800-GAMBLER. Accountability isn't just about staying on track. It's about building relational resilience. Now, here are two stories just to share with you what this can look like in having a healthy accountability partner versus having an unhealthy accountability partner. And just to be clear, these are scenarios, not real people. Marcus had been secretly gambling online for 3 years. At first, it was just to take the edge off. He told himself it wouldn't be a problem until it was. Late nights turned into early morning losses, missed rent, hidden overdraft notices. The shame was loud, but his silence was louder. He finally broke down after losing $1,800 in one night, money he had promised to use for his daughter's school trip. That moment shattered him, but it also opened the door to something different. Marcus reached out to his cousin Elijah, a person he respected but had always kept at a distance. Elijah didn't judge him. He didn't enable him either. He asked hard questions. What are you really trying to escape? And are you done hiding from this? They created a rhythm, weekly check-ins, honest conversations, and shared goals. Elijah helped Marcus track his triggers, especially payday. Together, they set up guardrails, like removing gambling apps, blocking casino sites, and redirecting money into savings with alerts. But it wasn't just the strategy. It was the connection. For the first time, Marcus felt seen. He had someone who held space for both his progress and his slips. Over time, the secrecy lost its power. The cravings lost their voice, and Marcus found something stronger than control. He found ownership. And that is extremely important on any recovery journey, is to own what you do, who you are, where you're going, and what's happening, even though this disorder is something out of your control. The actions that happen, own them anyway. And remind yourself that this is another day to conquer, tomorrow. Now let's talk about Tanya. She has a poor accountability partner on her hands here. She didn't necessarily communicate going into the accountability what she really needed. In fact, she didn't really consider the person she chose. Tanya was 6 months into recovery when she relapsed. She'd been doing well, attending support groups, journaling, and even speaking at a local event. But she didn't have anyone checking in on her. Her circle cheered her wins, but no one dared ask about her urges. Her best friend, who knew about her recovery journey, avoided the hard questions. She would say things like, "Girl, you're doing great. I know you got this." The truth? Tanya didn't got this. When she started feeling stressed and lonely again, the temptation came creeping back. A Saturday night scroll turned into a deposit. One game turned into 5 hours. She didn't tell anyone. The shame returned, and so did the silence. Without accountability, her trigger ran unchecked, and without connection, she felt like a failure. It wasn't until she reached out to a support group and met others who were willing to be real with her, not just supportive, but consistent and truth-telling, that her recovery stabilized. Today, Tanya has boundaries around her recovery, including a partner who isn't afraid to ask, "What are you doing with your urges this week? What are you numbing instead of naming? That level of truth is what turned her recovery from fragile to fortified. Now, although I'm referring to this as poor accountability, what's poor in the accountability that Tanya had is that she didn't have accountability. She never established her needs with her best friend. She never chose her best friend to be her accountability partner. It was passively by default that this person that cared about her was rooting for her. But accountability is having someone to check in on the goal. That's what they're there for. My goal is to recover from a gambling addiction. Then if that's the goal, what are the questions? What are the conversations that need to be happening to check in? Now, I want to be clear. I've been coaching for a very long time, and I have helped lots of people develop self-accountability. However, there is no version of self-accountability when it comes to gambling behavior because addiction thrives in isolation, secrecy, and denial, the very conditions that make honest self-reflection nearly impossible. When it comes to gambling addiction, the brain's reward system is often hijacked. That means the ability to make rational decisions, recognize consequences, and hold oneself accountable gets compromised from the gate. So if you're telling yourself, I got this, if you're telling yourself, I'm great with accountability on my goals, those things might be true for something other than a gambling addiction, but they are not true here. Here's why true accountability requires connection. The mind can justify anything in silence. Just this once. I'll win it back. No one will know. These lies grow stronger when there's no one to challenge them. Addiction disconnects us from ourselves. So self-check-ins become distorted. You may think you're in control when you're really spiraling. External accountability creates visibility. When someone else sees you, supports you, and challenges you with compassion, it disrupts the loop of secrecy. Recovery is not just about willpower. It's about structure, safety, and truth. And truth doesn't grow in hiding. So while self-awareness is a part of the journey, sustainable recovery requires relationships and not just rules. Without accountability, gambling recovery becomes unsustainable because addiction feeds on secrecy. And I'll say that 1,000 times. Addiction feeds on secrecy, denial, and isolation. So we know that it's a necessary force in moving forward. What you can expect to happen in a space that accountability does not exist is that urges go unchecked with no one to check in with. It becomes easier to justify them. Relapse becomes easier to hide. Without someone witnessing your journey, slip-ups, who's going to ask you questions? The cycle of shame just continues in silence. Progress plateaus. Whatever you had, whether it's months, weeks, years, you feel unable to achieve the lowest time frame of your recovery again. Triggers feel overwhelming. In moments of stress, loneliness, or emotional pain, without accountability, there's no buffer, no reminders of your why, and your progress of your goals becomes staggered. Accountability isn't about punishment. I want to emphasize that over and over again. It's about partnership and reminding you that you're not doing this by yourself, that you have a support system, and that there's someone there to help you edit your choices forward. Now that we've unpacked why accountability matters, as well as the do's and don'ts of an accountability partner, Gwen's going to walk us through how to build a support system that lasts.
Thank you, Corinne. Let's take a look at building a personal accountability network. I'm sure some of you are thinking, what is an accountability network? Well, it's not a police force. It's not your parole officer. It's a team of people, real or virtual, who care about your healing. These are people who support your recovery goals, check in on your progress, and are honest with you when you're slipping back into your old ways. Your accountability network might include someone like a sponsor or a coach, a therapist or counselor, a trusted friend, a recovery group, and even digital tools or communities that can actually track your progress. The truth is, addiction thrives in isolation, but healing, that happens in connection. Why does accountability matter? Well, accountability does a few important things. It helps you keep promises to yourself. When we know someone's going to ask, how did that go? We show up differently. It breaks the cycle of secrecy because secrets can keep us sick. Shame keeps us silent, but accountability says, you don't have to carry this alone. It makes relapse less likely. People with strong recovery support networks are statistically more likely to continue abstinent and bounce back more quickly when they stumble. Recovery is personal, but it's not meant to be done alone. How are you going to build an accountability network that actually works for you? Well, I have a few helpful steps. So, first of all, you need to get clear on what you need. Do you need daily check-ins or weekly talks? Do you want someone to text you when you're triggered or someone to talk to after therapy? It's important that you choose wisely. Pick people who are safe, emotionally mature, non-judgmental, and are trustworthy. Not everyone in your life qualifies, and that's okay. You just want to be extremely mindful of this when you're choosing. Be transparent about your goals. Say something like, I'm trying to break up with this addiction, and I need someone I can check in with when I'm struggling. Are you open to being that for me? It's also important to use tools that actually support your network. There are recovery apps, digital journals. There are even private chat groups that, people connect, when they're maybe struggling or having challenges with the same things. They come together and they have private chat groups. They'll, support, everyone in the group when someone's struggling, or just, that everyday encouragement that can be extremely helpful. So once you do choose your network, it's important to check in regularly, schedule it, make it consistent, let it be mutual. Support should go both ways when possible. Maybe you're also acting as accountability for this person. I know that is usually what happens in programs like Celebrate Recovery. They have accountability partners. So both of the people are, struggling with some hangups, hurts, some challenges, and they're able to provide that accountability for each other. It may also be a good idea to kind of practice a script, kind of get familiar and comfortable with what you're going to say. And I would like to provide you with maybe a few options to get you an idea of what that looks like. So you may say, hey, I'm working on some big personal changes. Would you be open to checking in with me once a week to help me keep me grounded? Or maybe you feel more comfortable saying, I'm struggling with gambling addiction. I'm not asking for advice. I just need someone to remind me of my why when I lose sight. Another one, you're someone I trust. Would you be willing to hold space for me when I'm trying to stay accountable to myself? You don't have to say it perfectly. You just have to be real. Let's look at accountability maintenance. Let's be real. Most support systems don't fall apart in some dramatic way. They fade. They get inconsistent. People get busy, or we pull away. Maintaining your accountability network is just like maintaining your recovery. It takes intention. And here's why it matters. Consistency builds trust. Communication prevents misunderstanding. Reciprocity strengthens connection. And when you show up, others are more likely to show up too. But you should think about keeping your network not just open, but engaged. I'd like to share 5 simple but powerful keys to maintaining your support circle. So the first really important thing to do is regular check-ins. Set a rhythm, weekly texts, monthly calls, or quick audio messages. Even a simple, hey, just wanted you to know I'm staying grounded this week goes a long way. Be honest. Even when you slip up, this is big. Please do not ghost your accountability partners when you relapse or feel ashamed. This is a time when you definitely need them. They're there to help you get back up, not to judge you. Say, I had a tough day. I don't need fixing. I just wanted and needed to tell someone. Also, make sure you respect boundaries. Check in on how your network is doing too. Say something like, how's this working for you? Are you still okay holding space for me like this? Mutual respect keeps the energy flowing both ways. Don't forget to celebrate together. Accountability isn't just about catching you when you fall. It's about clapping when you fly. Did you go 30 days clean or 30 days abstinent from gambling? Skip a gambling trigger? Finish a therapy milestone? Text your network. Text something like, can I share a win with you? I'm sure they will be excited to hear what it is. Let them cheer you on. It keeps the bond strong. And there should be room for growth. Sometimes people in your network shift. Life changes. People move. They grow or need to step back. And that's okay. Let your network evolve and stay open to new support sources, groups, coaches, friends, or even podcasts like this one. So I'd like to also share some scripts for like real life phrases that can help it a little bit, make it a little bit more easier to maintain your network. So maybe to check in, you may say something like, hey, just wanted to check in. How are you doing? I could use a quick gut check if you've got the space. So maybe you have, not really been maintaining the connection and you're needing to reconnect after some distance. Maybe you can say something like, I know I've been quiet lately. Recovery's been a roller coaster. I'm still here and I'm still doing the work. Well, what about if you need to set a boundary? You may say something like, I'm grateful for your support, but right now I need a little space, but I'll reach back out to you soon. And to reaffirm this relationship, say something to your accountability network, like having you in my corner makes a huge difference. I hope you know that, because people want to feel appreciated as well. I'd also like to provide some information, maybe a reflection for those people who do like to journal, or maybe you have your quiet time or meditation. So you may ask yourself this question: who in my support network do I need to check in with this week? You may want to journal on that. And because the gratification, the self-satisfaction that you can get with not always just expecting someone to support you, but you return that support to them, it's priceless. There's nothing that compares to seeing that something that you did or you said has made a difference in someone's life. What would it feel like to share one honest update, one win, or one request for help. Remember, your accountability network isn't a lifeline just for the bad days. It's a relationship. And like all relationships, it needs attention and tension and love. Healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in connection with people who remind you who you are, even when you forget. Today, I want to introduce
Powered
you
by
to
Riverside
someone
FM.
I'll call James. James isn't his real name, but his story could be real and deeply familiar for many who struggle with gambling addiction. James is 38 years old. He lives in a mid-sized city, has a quiet apartment with a dog named Finn, and he works in a demanding field, financial planning. He's got the credentials, the suits, the client list. And until recently, he also had a secret, a growing gambling problem that he couldn't out-analyze, budget, or plan his way out of. James first started gambling casually in college. At the time, it was sports betting, mostly with friends. But over time, it became online poker, daily fantasy leagues, and eventually high-stakes sports betting apps. He told himself it was harmless, just a hobby, just a little stress release. But stress release turned into stress creation. Fast forward to his mid-30s, and James had maxed out a credit card, was borrowing against savings, and had lied to his partner twice about money. He didn't see it as an addiction, though. He saw it as a temporary spiral, something that he could fix once he hit the big win. But that win never came. 4 months ago, James made a change. After a missed mortgage payment and a panic attack before a quarterly review, he reached out. He contacted a gambling recovery coach, someone he'd heard on a podcast, actually, and said, "I think I need help." This was the beginning of his recovery. He started coaching sessions weekly, and together they worked through identifying his gambling triggers, learning about urge surfing, tracking his finances honestly, and most importantly, naming the emotions underneath the behavior. James is now in early remission. That means he hasn't placed a bet, visited a gambling site, or engaged in any gambling-related behavior for over 3 months. That's a big deal in the clinical world, an even bigger deal in James's world. But remission isn't the finish line. It's a fragile, hopeful beginning. So what's keeping James grounded right now? He built a relapse prevention plan that includes keeping the app that blocks any of the gambling or gaming on his phone and creating financial guardrails with the money manager. He's using journaling and mindfulness every morning, setting up alerts with his bank for unusual transactions, and actually attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings. But what's been most transformational? His accountability network. James used to think that he had to fix everything himself. He was the strong one, the one who gave advice, not the one who asked for it. Now he's inviting people into his healing, and he has created this network. The network includes a former college roommate who is also in recovery from addiction, his older sister who checks in with a simple, "How's your heart today?" text, his therapist who helps him separate financial anxiety from gambling urges, and 2 other men he met in a virtual Gamblers Anonymous meeting who share honest updates weekly. He even created what he calls his relapse radar. It's a checklist that he sends to his accountability circle when he notices stress piling up. For instance, working late 3 nights this week, check. Avoiding friends, check. Fantasizing about winning big, check. And instead of hiding those red flags, James shares them. And guess what? His people show up. They text, they call, they remind him that one bad week doesn't erase 4 months of growth. James still has work to do. There are days that he feels the old pull, but now he doesn't have to fight it alone. Recovery isn't about being strong enough to resist. It's about being brave enough to be seen. Try not to see accountability as pressure. Remember, it's actually protection. What would it mean to let someone in, to see your healing not as a private battle, but a shared journey? If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone in your own network, or send it as a thank you to someone who's helped you to stay accountable. Please remember this: accountability is not punishment. It's protection. It's a form of love that reminds you you are not alone in your healing. You know, we can't close without giving you your weekly homework assignment. So this week, your homework is to build or strengthen your accountability system. And there are 3 steps to this. Step 1, choose one area where you need more support, like financial decisions, emotional check-ins, or recovery milestones. Step 2, identify at least one person who can help hold you accountable in that area. And lastly, step 3, have a conversation this week to set that up. Thank you, listeners. We look forward to joining us again next week. Until next time, take care of your heart, your healing, and your people. Addiction doesn't define you, and breaking up with it doesn't have to be a solo mission. KindBridge Behavioral Health offers safe, non-judgmental support anytime from anywhere. Visit kindbridge.com/appointments and start getting the help you deserve today.